Welcome to Section 4, Cyber Resilience Strategy, Control Objectives, and Interactions with ITSM. In the exam, there will be 6 questions from this topic. This is where we really begin our learning journey to understand various controls for cyber resilience, starting with strategic controls. So here, from an exam perspective, the syllabus is the following: to identify what cyber resilience strategy is intended to achieve, and identify relevant activities that should be aligned with IT service strategy. So meaning there should be alignment between cyber resilience and IT service strategy. And also there are certain purposes and key features of the control objectives. This is about the controls from a cyber resilience strategy perspective. The first control is to establish governance along with its activities. The second is to manage stakeholders, wherein there'll be certain common categories of stakeholders, gathering requirements, planning communications, and so on. Then the third control is to create and manage policies. And then the fourth is to manage audit and compliance. And then we will conclude with the interactions between cyber resilience and the various ITSM service strategy processes from ITIL in particular, which is the strategy management for IT services, followed by service portfolio management, financial management for IT services, demand management, and business relationship management. Now, these 5 processes are coming in from ITIL v3. So we're going to refer to those processes. For the exam, you only have to understand the interaction between cyber resilience and these processes from ITIL or ITSM. You don't have to know anything other than that. For example, you won't have to know what exactly happens in each of these ITIL processes, though an overview is essential, but you won't have to go into detail of each of these ITIL processes. So firstly, what is cyber resilience strategy? This ensures that activities to protect an organization's information assets are coherent and cyber resilience objectives are understood and aligned with the needs of stakeholders, which means that it is first of all important to understand what the resilience needs are. And that will depend on the needs of stakeholders who will together convene and conclude those requirements. So it means the strategy approach here provides a common understanding to ensure that people in the organization are working together. There is coherence among them to achieve these objectives and ensures availability of resources for this. This strategy development for cyber resilience should be performed by governors and management. So it starts from the topmost body of the organization and percolates to senior management and other management levels. It's a critical part of the management system for the overall organization. And it also provides a framework for the organization to adapt to a changing environment by which appropriate responses to previously unknown threats and vulnerabilities can be made in a way that aligns with the goals of the organization. Meaning, strategy is not static. There'll be changes to the environment, and the strategy should respond to it based on certain events happening externally or based on certain other factors, such as internal business changes. Without such a cyber resilience strategy, its activities are likely to be disjointed with no clear objectives, no understanding of how cyber resilience contributes to value to the organization, and no ability will be there to adapt to changing circumstances. So which means that this cyber resilience strategy is closely connected with the business itself. It is not that it's just with the IT department and they keep doing some work such as setting up firewalls or network access. It is more than that. Even though those things such as firewalls and network access are some of the technical controls that will eventually be designed and applied. So how does this strategy help really? It helps the organization and its stakeholders to understand the following. First of all, people will get to know what cyber resilience really is. And they will also understand the importance of this to the organization and to its customers. So it is not that it's generally jump into implementing controls, but understanding from a wider perspective and from a higher level, and then drill down downwards. And also this helps to understand how cyber resilience will be managed and funded. Funding is part of the strategic consideration. Then also the organization capabilities required to deliver the necessary cyber resilience will be understood. And also it'll be known what assets will be used to manage this resilience and how performance of these assets can be optimized. And then also how this resilience will be integrated into all aspects of value creation for an organization, ensuring that the business processes that the organization depends on and the data and information that these processes use are properly protected. And the stakeholders will also understand the approach the organization will take to manage cyber resilience and the relevant objectives that they will work towards together and the constraints within which they must work. So, what are the controls that come from cyber resilience strategy? There are four of them, but before we go into that list in the box to the right, these controls make a significant contribution to establish and maintain a cyber resilience strategy of an organization. These controls are administrative type rather than technical ones, and these influence people and design of other controls rather than directly impacting specific technical risks. And not everybody will understand what the strategic governance goals are, but they should appreciate the reasons behind these controls they operate or supervise. Therefore, people should be educated even about the governance controls. It is not that governance is only for the topmost body or the other senior management, but all these should be transparent to all employees of the organization. So further, establishing the controls, uh, we begin with the first control to establish the governance of cyber resilience. There were four controls. The first one is to establish governance of cyber resilience. After that, we will go into managing stakeholders, then creating and managing policies for cyber resilience, and then managing the audit and compliance for cyber resilience. So the first one here is to establish the governance for this. Governance, it ensures that the organization understands and meets the expectations of the owners and other stakeholders. We have seen earlier in the general view of governance, it is about evaluate, direct, and monitor. Evaluate the business, the how it is positioned and what are the opportunities and dilemmas, and then work out the direction, meaning high-level plans and decisions, and then monitor the progress as per the direction. So here for cyber resilience, similarly, there has to be governance, and that begins by understanding what is needed so that the interests of the stakeholders are protected and the right things are done eventually, and that legal and regulatory frameworks and requirements are met eventually. And I was just mentioning that governance is much wider than cyber resilience, but a key point here to note is that the governance of cyber resilience should be part of the overall governance of the organization. It should not be skipped. And we have seen earlier that the corporate governance is the responsibility of the board of management or equivalent, who are accountable to the owners and to other stakeholders such as government or regulatory authorities. So this governance provides oversight of cyber resilience and ensures that all aspects of cyber resilience are appropriate for the organization. Let us take some examples of governance scenarios. In a very small organization, governance may be just the steps the owner takes to ensure that staff understand what stakeholders need and to ensure that they do what is required to protect the company and its clients. Whereas in a large organization, this may involve the creation of many organizational structures, committees, creating reports, as well as communicating and training staff to ensure that they understand what is expected from them, and also compliance audits from time to time to ensure that they're all following the rules. So do differentiate between how governance for cyber resilience works in small versus large organizations. Again, there's another situation. Certain organizations operate in multiple countries, and here something different may happen because there may be different legal and regulatory systems in each country, and they need to be balanced. And there could be conflicting needs. For example, the data protection laws may be different, and accordingly, the control should be set up. And yeah, it's mentioned here, for example, the privacy laws in one country may conflict with government demands for access to data from another country. So what are the key activities in this governance of cyber resilience? We can see that in the picture. The picture actually shows that the owners and stakeholders, the shareholders at the top and other key stakeholders and various requirements and expectations of those shareholders and stakeholders, they lead to the beginning of governance. And so it's part of the evaluation there. And that creates the evaluate, direct, and monitor elements of governance, and that eventually leads to management. So let's see what that means. On the left, evaluating the needs and expectations of stakeholders, prioritizing these, and deciding on the overall requirements from cyber resilience. So that's the first one of the activities in the governance here. Then providing direction to management about what this resilience should achieve. So high level plans. And then defining who makes these cyber resilience decisions and how these decisions should be made. And then ensuring that the cyber resilience risk is adequately addressed. And then monitoring the performance and outcomes of this resilience and intervening if necessary to ensure that the specific direction is being followed. Therefore, we see the elements of evaluate, direct, and monitor under these key activities. So as you can see in this picture, the requirements and expectations are a key thing to be understood first under this governance, and then prioritizing them, and then defining, concluding with the actual overall requirements for cyber resilience. And then that leads to direction setting, decision making, and planning that is at a high level, and then monitoring those that the decisions are being followed and being implemented or not. And as we have seen earlier in the risk chapter, risk management is the risk management approach also comes from governance, though it comes from the wider governance rather than cyber resilience only. But that risk management approach from the wider governance should be utilized by cyber resilience governance as well.